Hey guys, Deathscyp here from YCG, your casual gamer. Welcome to part 4 of the checkpoint system, and this one's going to be a short and sweet one. It's just, now when you're playing video games and you get to a checkpoint, you're going to notice there's a lot going on screen. As you can see over here, I already added the new feature. I also played a little bit with my scene because, I love doing it. It takes 2 seconds, and whenever I'm working on an episode, I always find new ways of building stuff, and it's just fun. So when you're going to activate the checkpoint, yes, we have the little Ue4 sign over here that's going to shine, but also at the bottom right, you're going to notice that there's a text that's going to pop up and it's going to say checkpoint. And we're going to learn how to make that nice little animation together. So stay tuned. Alright, so to get started, we are going to be playing in the UMG editors. So we're going to make a new user interface widget blueprint. We're going to call it CP for checkpoint, notify. Just always better to keep your titles short, because when you're going to be compiling your game at the end, you're going to thank me if you don't have a big path for your folder arrangement. There is a limit of 226 characters in the file path for your game, and if you go too far and do folders, then it won't compile. Keep that in mind. Alright, now that you're inside your user interface editor, we're going to go ahead and create our program. So from here, we're going to get the border in. I always like using the border first. One thing to keep in mind though when using the border, if you hover over it, it's going to say that there's only room for a single child or image. So that means you can only put one thing underneath that's going to be a child to this border. It doesn't mean that the thing underneath can have only one child, but only he can have one child. Always important is these are two different things. Like I want to use a horizontal box that says that it can have many children. If I add a horizontal box per se to the border, then it's going to be able to have as many children as I want from the horizontal box, but not connected to the border itself. And that's what we have over here. Now, remove the horizontal box for now. Let's just grab the border and just put it into play where we want to. So the message I wanted to start about here, because I wanted to move into play, like with an animation. Another reason I like to use the border, we are actually going to have a horizontal box because we're going to have the message and then the throbber that's going to be right next to each other. And the horizontal box, horizontal box is the best way to do it because, like it say, it's horizontal and you can have as many things as you want inside the box. So we're going to have our border over here, and the reason I don't put just a horizontal box off the bat and I put a border first is because the border can be animated on its content and color and for the brush color also that you can see on the screen. Right away here, if I take the alpha, you can see that on screen we already have a feedback. Thing is, with the horizontal box, you don't have that. You only have the behavior visibility. So I can either take it on or off, which is going to be a little bit glitchy on the screen when you just see it popping in front of you. That's not really the effect we're looking for, so let's go ahead and add a border first. And then the first thing we're going to do with the border, I'm going to take the alpha out for the background over here, because I want to be able to see what we're going to add inside our horizontal box. Then we're going to go get a simple text, bring it inside the horizontal box. For the text, we're going to call it checkpoint. And that's it. Maybe we're going to play a little bit with the size. I think 28 was a good one for me. We're going to put it to fill, centered, and centered. Compile and save. Then we're going to go get the throbber. The throbber, you can't find it. You can just write it down. There you go. So the throbber is, I don't want to step on anybody's toe over here. And I have actually found a nice a nice episode online from Mathew Wadstein that just explains it perfectly what it does. So I don't want to, if I'm going to put it in the link description below and you can go check it up for yourself if you want to. And so basically what it does is just like you see over here, it shows little images that you can just animate it vertically, horizontally, or with opacity, and you decide how many you want it to show. Like if I wanted to have more, I could just add more, and it would still do the little animation on Ford. And if you want to know more on the subject, go check, and it's a 2-minute episode that he shows you everything you need to know about it. There you have it. We have our basic message. You can always play with this afterward if you're not too happy with what you got. So we're ready to animate it. So compile and save. We're going to create a new animation, called it CP activation. And there you go. So from here, if you want to, you can add your track. I could go get the border I could add the border over here, but right here, I could go get the border, choose the track, but it takes a lot more time because when you go for the track, you have to choose which one you want, and you're not too sure what you want yet. So delete that. I'm going to show you the best way, and like always, the best way to do it, the easiest way. So first off, the message is supposed to start invisible. So again, in the border, we're going to go inside the content and opacity and crank this to 0. And now we know that this is what's going to make the opacity level. So right off the bat, I just make sure that I'm 0, 0 on my timeline, and there's a little keyframe over here. I just click on it, and it's going to create a keyframe at the beginning of my timeline. From there, I can then, I know my opacity is already at 0, so I can choose, I want it to take about 0.6 seconds to bring it to, so I add a key over here and put it to 1. And that's going to just right away, it's going to make the message show and a nice smooth transition appear in front of me. So then from here, you're ready to continue on. Now it's not moving yet, but again, that's going to be with the border. So we're going to go inside the border on the right over here, and we're going to scroll down to render transform. We're going to add another keyframe over here for the transformation. Make sure you go back to 0 first. Always important, this step, because when you add a keyframe, you have to make sure that it starts somewhere. And in our case, we want it to start at its original location. And you're going to be playing on the x-axis because it's x and y is up. So from here, we're going to move to, so when the message is going to show, we should be at our location. So if I press here, I'm going to add a keyframe, and I'm going to crank up the x-axis till I'm happy where I want it to be. Whoops. It's not the right one. Oh, I took the text block. I had to be on the border. Sorry. Oh, we'll keep that. Make sure that you're selected on the, I was selected on the checkpoint, so that's why it didn't work well. You make sure to select the border, or else you're not going to be on the right transform. I go back to 0, click the transform, and now it's good. Now we know that they're activated together because we don't see another title over here. From here, I go back to 0.6, and I'm going to add a keyframe and just move this till I move everything where I want it to be. I want it to go to the far corner like this, and we're good. Perfect. Now for the border, there's one thing I forgot to do. You see the anchor is always set at the far up top left. Make sure to put the anchor to the middle. And what that does is that no matter your screen size or your player screen size, it's always going to look for the center of the screen before it starts the animation. If you anchor it to the top left, then it's always going to look for the top left of the screen, and it might just not work well with your animation. Since it's always even when you put it to the center, whether it's not even when you go to the top left of any different screen size. Now that we have this, we're going to go and continue on. So now we know that we want the animation to carry on from here. So if I press play right now, you see it works, but it stops there and it keeps showing. So we don't want it to do that. So we're going to keep it up for maybe up to here. So easy enough. Now that we have our timeline, we can just click on the keyframe we want to play with. We can Alt and drag a copy of it to wherever we want in the timeline. Now we're going to do the same thing with the one that's at 0 and Alt drag, and I'm going to bring it past this so it takes about 3 seconds. 3 seconds should be fine enough for the animation. Bring this back, and then from here we just have to bring the bottom half all the way to the end of our timeline. And then if you check over here, now we have our animation and it's working perfectly. And then it goes away. So now that we have our animation, let's see if we can summon it to the screen. So this should be here like that. There you go. Now it's all clean. We know it takes about 3 seconds. So now we need to call it to the screen. So how do we do that? Inside the event graph over here, we're going to delete this and this. We just need the event construct. You're going to control drag your animation and just play animation like this. Number of loop is 1, so it's just going to happen once. Now you know in the designer that it takes about 3 seconds for your animation to play, so you want it to have a delay after of 3 seconds to let the time of your animation to play. And then we're just going to remove it from parent, because you never want to keep remove from 2 seconds. So because you never want to keep it into play all the time. Let's say you have multiple checkpoints and you keep all of them in the background when you're loading them inside the scene. You're just clustering your CPU, GPU, and it's always going to be calculating in the back whether these things are summoned or not. And you don't need them. So make sure to erase them after you don't need them anymore. That way it's always going to keep your game running smooth for your player. Very important. All right, now that we have this, we are done with this part of the episode. Now we just need to add it to our checkpoint system that we built in the last episode. So we already have our checkpoint system over here. So right here in the middle, so just before the timeline activates the checkpoint notification for the Ue4 sign, we're just going to make a create widget. Go get our CP notify and add it to viewport. Connect everything, and you are done. Compile and save, and then you jump into your scene. When you're inside your scene, when you're playing with a user interface or widget, make sure to be in F11 view, because that's going to be the real player view, or standalone. Because if I'm in my viewport, if I go and activate the checkpoint, you're going to see that the checkpoint is going off screen. As soon as I press F11, you can see your checkpoint. If I run to the other one, you're going to see that everything works exactly as intended. I activate it, checkpoint notifications on screen. Now your player really knows that it's activated. So I hope you like this. Like always, leave a like and subscribe if you like what you see. And the next episode, we're going to be finishing up the checkpoint system and adding a particle system effect to the Ue4 sign so that you can really have everything you want for the player notification. And again, the only reason I'm doing this is I want to give you as much as I can on the subject so that if you want to make your checkpoint system, you have 3 different ways now of showing. You're going to have the material animation you can have on the material itself for the mesh. You're going to have the player notification through UMG widget, and the third one is going to be with particle effect, special effects that's going to give the feedback for the player. So see you in the next episode. Have a good day.